Hi, I'm Sarah Gonzalez. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Glenn, what was the top story today?
I am torn. There are several. One is the stock market, and the other, I think, is the Democratic bill that, because of this, a magazine, this is how they're defining, assault weapons. That will include handguns, and their bill that they're currently floating is 80% of all guns. 80%.
Okay, we're going to dig into that more in a minute, Stu.
I'm going to go with Hope Hicks and her departure.
Okay, Pat.
I'm going to go with Hurricane Katrina. But you'll see why in a second.
Interesting. Okay.
Wow, I'm intrigued.
All right.
Guns is still out there, but the attack on the Marine base, joint base actually, in Arlington, Virginia, that's just not being covered.
Yeah. Glenn, the stock market.
Okay, so stock market, there's a couple of things. Stock market was extraordinarily volatile today. And this is a combination of several really not good things. The dollar has lost 11% of its value in the last year. Think of that. If I said to you, by the way, whatever you have in your bank account, I'm just going to take 10% of it, you would freak out. Mm-hmm. The Fed, because of inflation, has taken 11% of whatever you have. That's significant. So you have that pressure. Because that is a sign of inflation, they have to raise interest rates. That is a bad sign for the markets, and they believe that there will be at least 3 interest rate hikes for the remainder of the year. Unusual and will cause a lot of pain. On top of all of that, you also have now a trade war that is beginning with Donald Trump. You have such a really bad, nasty mix here that people don't know what to do. And the stock market's taking a beating, and it could get bad.
With interest rates going up, on housing, that touches so many different industries in the economy.
Oh my
Plus,
gosh.
don't forget the tax bill they just passed, limited how much you can actually deduct from your interest mortgage.
Right.
Mortgage interest, yeah.
And that's going to really hurt home sales. It's going to really hurt the average person. It'll hurt on your car loans, anything.
Well, it will not be spread around if you add a 25% tax on steel coming into the country at all, because not a lot of things are built with steel or aluminum. They're not important parts of our industrial.
You watch this. Can you explain this to me? He said today that this was because of our national, what was it? National security. Mm-hmm. I understand that if we're having to build ships and submarines and airplanes and we're at war. Why? Is that just an excuse, I'm hoping?
I think absolutely it's an excuse. Now, do we have national security issues? Yes. And I think what you're kind of getting at is hopefully there's not something we don't know about that would. But again, a tariff is too slow moving for something like this. Like if you're looking to ramp up a quick war effort, a tariff is definitely not the way to do it. This is a situation where Trump has wanted to do this for a while. It's one of the few things he's actually really passionate about, I think. It's like he believes in protectionism. It's also among his worst policies. I mean, when you tariff 25% on steel make you feel good, but what is it? It's a redistribution of wealth, first of all. You're taking money out of everyone who purchased a product that has steel in it. They're going to be paying a little bit more, and that money's going to funnel to some steel plant owner. It is a redistribution of wealth, and as conservatives, we should recognize that. And it's also a tax on people who are importing the steel. It's not a tax on China. It's not a tax on another country. The person who pays the tax is the company that's importing the steel and then selling it to you. So of course they're passing it along. It's going to raise everybody's prices. The same thing happened with dishwashers when he was doing that. And we've done this before. Obama got through a tire tariff. And what the end game of that, the long winding road of that, was $900,000 per job. $900,000 we took out of people's pockets who were buying tires. They were all added, the price was added to those tires, and it was funneled to create a few jobs that were temporary and cost $900,000. It's a terrible policy, and it never works.
This is worse, though, too, because steel is going to affect Europe, it's going to affect China, and they are going to respond. They're already starting to respond. You start a trade war, it escalates to real war fast.
Yeah. I want to move on to your other top story, the Democrat bill.
They have said for a long time that we're not coming after your guns. We're not coming after your guns. except the bill that is now circulating with the Democrats will say assault rifles or anything with a detachable magazine, okay? So this is a detachable magazine. Think we could make those with 3D printers?
I think so.
Okay? This is no big deal. This was invented in the 1800s. It first went into a rifle in 1911. It's part of all rifles, pretty much all rifles now, some sort of spring loading in a rifle or a detachable magazine. They're now saying, yes, that does include semi-automatic handguns. 80% of all guns they are talking about banning now in the
So if I'm to understand this correctly, my little 380 that I have at home that detaches, the magazine detaches,
that includes.
would be banned.
Yes.
That I use for my home protection because I'm a single mother.
Yes, it leaves you with a cowboy gun. It leaves you with a 6-shooter. That's it.
Wow.
That would only be future purchases of this, right? The current
We know of so far,
the bill as constructed, you'd be able to keep the gun. And can you imagine gun sales before that thing goes into effect?
I got to tell you, any gun manufacturer that's having a problem with sales and a slump in sales, this should be a bigger sale day. This will show if Republicans aren't afraid of this, I think they're fools, because there's a real movement afoot. And gun sales, you should be standing in line in Cabela's for about 14 days if you really understood what's happening in Washington.
Pat, do you think that this is just a result of Democrats not knowing anything about guns and trying to legislate them, or do you think this is a purposeful
No, I think
move?
it's purposeful. I think they've wanted to get the guns for a long time, and they've been afraid to say it until now, because we've got a Republican president who's willing to say it now. Now, you get defenders and Republicans who say, come on, they're not going to take your guns. This is America. They're not going to take the gun. They've already done it. And they didn't do it in 1920, and it wasn't 1875. It was 2005. Hurricane Katrina. Anybody remember what they did in New Orleans? They sent the National Guard door to door to confiscate people's guns. They made them leave their homes, and they were told to persuade them to leave. They persuaded them to leave under the threat of gunpowder because they all went into homes with guns and demanded that they be turned over to them. It's already happened. It happened in not just the flooded areas, but also the completely dry areas.
And those people never got their guns back.
Never got their guns back. It's already happened in America.
And it's always incremental. So they start with, well, it's future purchases, right? And then when the next shooting happens, well, that wasn't enough because there's still so many out there.
Shootings happening.
We
have to keep going.
No, this is
They've got to get
really
the guns
dangerous.
in order to make sure this never happens again.
I want to say this because I got 2 emails from people who were watching last night and said, Glenn, I am a liberal. I am watching from my bunker in New York or wherever. One was from California. Said I don't know anything about guns, and I watch you and I agree sometimes and mostly disagree. But on this one, I am truly afraid of the guns. I'm afraid of guns. That is where we have to talk. I don't think the average Democrat wants to take away everybody's gun. They don't understand it, and you should have a healthy fear of guns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They are deadly weapons.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we're taking now this Democrat bill, and we're, talking about a president who doesn't really understand due process, wants to toss it aside. I mean, how scared should people be right now? I know a lot of people are saying, well, it's never going to be, it's never going to become legislation, so it's fine.
Well, I mean, we just saw this leaked letter from the Democrats when the last shooting happened. An email went out from, I think one of the Democratic committees and said, hey, don't try to take advantage of this, today. Just thoughts and prayers and keep it simple. And one of the candidates, a congressional candidate, pushed back and said, if we don't push for gun control while people are emotional, we'll never get it done. And how long have we been saying that? That's exactly what it is. I mean, it goes to this Chris Murphy, the Democrat, who's been big on gun control. With Sandy Hook, he's been kind of top of that issue for a while. And he had a bill ready to go, which is this Fix Nix bill, which is kind of like helping. It's a bill the NRA supports that helps. The reporting requirements for
get more information into the system.
Because right now only 38 states are required to put the information into the system, which is silly. So it's going to fix that, right? And, it was kind of making its way through the system. And with the shooting, there's a new focus on it, right? The NRA has come out and said, we think this is a problem too. So this could pass easily. It's a Democrat bill. And now Chris Murphy is blocking his own bill because he believes they can get more. There's a motion now. And so he's the one stopping a bill he proposed. None of it's so disingenuous, and I think they know what they're doing, but it's hard to have any faith in the system because, they just keep manipulating it.
Yeah. Stu, I want to get to what mattered to you on Hope Hicks' resignation really quickly.
I think a lot of people are looking at this as like, oh, this is a longtime person who's been with Trump, and it's sending signals. Is this something to do with Russia? Is it something to do with this? Is it something to do with that? We have to step back and say this is also a really big deal for the administration. Hope is one of the most competent people there, in a place where sometimes there's not a lot of competent people here. We know Josh Raffel as well, who also left this week. And you're talking about two of the top of that industry. With the exception of generals, they don't have a lot of top of industry types in that administration. There's been a lot of people who didn't want to go serve there. And they wound up getting some executives in there. And there's some good people that are surrounding Trump now. But these are two big departures. And people
stabilizing forces
and people who are the exact type of people you need in a Donald Trump administration, people who are highly competent, people who aren't out for themselves, and people who don't care and in fact stay away from the cameras at all times. They never look at the person Hope Hicks replaced, Anthony Scaramucci. Right? Look at the differences happened.
Most people don't even know who she is.
And that's great.
Same thing with Josh Raffel. That's not important to him.
They do their job. They do everything they can to support. They treated the press, with some respect, and they actually got some, good stories out of that White House, which was incredibly rare. Losing both of them at the same time is a big deal.
I also think that this Hope Hicks is an important story today because of the way it was spun. That she said that she had to tell little white lies. That's not what happened. Under oath, she was asked, do you tell any lies? We all know you have to tell little white lies, but have you ever told real lies?
About the Russia investigation specifically?
No. So they counted that and made it look like she said, I've had to tell little white lies. No, that was in the question.
Right. Yeah.
It's so unfair.
All right.
She never did say that.
No.
Never did.
That we know of. We don't have transcript. We have people who were in the committee who have told it.
Yeah, and they said that she was not the person who brought that phrase up. It was a phrase that was discussed in the question. And that's a big difference, right? Like you're quoting, parroting someone back to them. It's a difference.
Yeah. All right. Much more to come. Stay with us. Welcome back. So Glenn had to leave for a prior engagement, but we're joined by the lovely Jason Buttrell. And I want to get into Doc's top story of the day, which was the Marine base that got attacked. There was a substance that was delivered by mail. It injured some Marines. I think 11 were injured, 3 were hospitalized.
Well, originally they had only reported 3, but this is something that happened 48 hours ago from about right now. And we covered it Wednesday morning on the air because the news started coming out. It was a huge story. And then nothing else came out about it. We found out that there was likely 11 that were injured. We don't know to what degree. And then Jason joined me on the air this morning going, how come nobody else is covering this?
Fired up.
This is a huge story.
Yeah. I saw this in the Blaze. I Googled it really, really quick, and I saw something from like a day or so, like a day and a half ago. A little short little blurb on Reuters or something like that. It's like, oh yeah, there's 11, sick, about 3 in the hospital.
It's a joint base in Arlington, Virginia. Some sort of substance was delivered via mail, which the mail post 9/11 is opened off of bases. That means nothing detected it, which adds another whole layer of interest to this because it's still, all these bases are still subjected to a possible future terror attack. We don't know if it was chemical, biological, but at least 11 people suffered nosebleeds, burning, itching sensation or whatever. And that's all we know. Now you've put in a couple calls to him.
Yeah, I'm pissed off. To put it out there. I don't believe it. It's like you get this kind of reaction sometimes when you're in the military. We're like, it's just the military. It's just those guys. That's what they're for. If this would have been against any other person, this would have been all over the place. What if this would have happened? What if this would have happened to the letter that went to Donald Trump Jr.'s wife? You know what I mean? Like, that seriously could have been maybe a probing attack. How are they going to respond to this? What's going to happen? What are the procedures?
But had this been 5 or 10 years after 9/11, because we're now at, 17 years, it would have been the top story blanketing the news. And I think what's changed is you've got a whole voting sect and a whole bunch of people that are consuming media that don't even remember 9/11. It's not an issue. What do they care about? The guns in schools, that Hogg Kid out there. And yesterday morning and this morning, CNN, all guns. Yesterday it was the kids returning to school, and they didn't even talk about this issue.
Yeah, that's the ratings.
This is why I've started the hashtag ban mail. I want to boycott. I think we should ban all mail. You'd also need a constitutional amendment to do that, by the way. But I think we get rid of all mail because it could threaten people. Yeah. We know that there's an attack out there. Who knows what that envelope could hold?
I'm concerned about the big post boxes because nobody needs that amount of mail. If we had just had smaller ones, something like that. Nobody needs the high capacity ones I'm talking about.
Okay,
Those are the ones I'm concerned about.
I mean, but so is it that concerning to you because nobody's talking about it or because we don't know what the substance is?
Both. For both reasons. But it's just fascinating that it doesn't matter now, or it doesn't seem to matter. What matters is an irrational fear of a tool.
Yeah, do you remember the ricin scare in the 2000s and the anthrax?
Yeah.
We were going crazy over that, and it was talked about and led every story. This is completely gone.
Unabomber
already.
Before that.
Unabomber?
Usually our big story. I think part of this is just Trump world, right? Like, there's just so many freaking stories every day.
Right.
Like, this show could be 12 hours. The second hour could be all the stories that happened in the first hour while we were on the air. It could never end. It's just, that is the world we're in with Donald Trump. There's so many things, and obviously this story in particular had nothing to do with Trump, but it's been replaced by about 10 that did.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because with the polarization of today's society, that's what they want to hear. That's what they want to consume. Yeah. I think they just want to be angry. Speaking of angry, Stu is still bitter about Al Gore.
Me?
Yes, Al Gore being accused of sexual assault.
That was clear back 8-9 years ago.
It was, and that's a great point. That's a great point, Pat. It was 8 or 9 years ago. And remember, we're only a few months away from, instead of every story about someone leaving in the White House, it was another person has been accused of sexual assault. And then we went through kind of this period where there was seemingly like a dozen a week of famous people, and and we went through that whole process. And now we've it's died down a little bit. And we had that period where even the Democrats at some level took on people like Bill Clinton. Anyone from these old sort of group of accusers, and a lot of people came out and said, you know what, we really handled that Bill Clinton thing wrongly. We should have believed the women. That's the rule. The rule is all women should be believed when they make accusations. And we were talking about this randomly the other day, and I thought, who's one person who has not had any blowback from this Me Too movement at all? And it's Al Gore. Al Gore was accused by 3 different women with almost the identical same stories about being in massage situations and asking for his second chakra to be...
Every time, right?
Yeah.
In every case, it was, I need my second chakra adjusted. because of global warming and the FU voice, my second chakra is out of place, and I'd like you to put it back in for me.
It's true. 3 different women accused him of that, and this is only a few years ago. What was it, 2010?
9 or 10.
Different women who didn't have any association with each other. Is that correct?
At least 2 of them didn't. I don't know. I know 2 of them came out at the same time. I don't think they knew each other.
Right.
I think it was just 3 different. This guy's just getting a lot of massages. He's very stressed, apparently. The globe's melting to the ground, so I would think that it's a problem. But I mean, it's interesting of who gets prosecuted for these things and who doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, we have gone through this situation where, I mean, Aziz Ansari, here's a guy who's an actor who gets accused by one woman of kind of not being sensitive to nonverbal signals in a sexual encounter. And he was, it was a big story for days and days and days. And yet here's Al Gore, who kind of goes through the situation with the same amount of respect, no knock on his record. I mean, even Bill Clinton didn't pull that off.
Yeah. Doc, I want to talk about New Way, California.
Oh, there's a new way in California.
Pave the way. Arnold Schwarzenegger and John Kasich are now joining forces.
Right, to make it pretty much the same old way in California. So
No, it's new.
It's new, the Republican Party of California is not doing well. So Schwarzenegger and Kasich are teaming up, and they're longtime buddies because they're both progressives, and said
If there's anybody that can fix the
they
Republican
can fix
Party,
it, right?
it's those 2.
And instead of saying, hey, let's educate people and head in a libertarian direction that just says, hey, it's about personal freedoms and free markets and stress that, they did what they've always done and say, we can just make the Republican Party of California basically more progressive. That's what they're doing. And if you look up New Way California, their Facebook posts and stuff, they're like, hey, we believe in global warming. It's real. So they're taking issues that they should absolutely not support, but they're masking it as this, we've just got to reach across the aisle type of thing. It's not about common ground. It is about compromising what they supposedly believe in. And I suspect this is going to be just a softer GOP in California.
It's easy to find common ground with the other party when you just become the
When
other
you
party.
are the other party.
Because you're standing in the exact same places. You do share common ground. It's one way to do it.
All right, up next, we take your questions when we return. Every day, we like to hear from you, the viewer. We want to hear your questions. What do you want to know? So tweet us today, every day, even on the weekends, using the hashtag #TheBlazeWhy. Steve wants to know, can any of you explain why Congress spends billions every year in investigations, that the voters will never see all of the findings, and they can't have anyone prosecuted?
Pat Gray, you're elected. Go. Pat Gray, go.
I don't know.
He said, take the Russia colluding. There are only 3 investigations. Only one can end in jail time. Well, the answer, Steve, is that Congress doesn't care about your money.
Yes, that's definitely
Good
true.
answer.
That's pretty
You're
much
elected.
It's the same reason as why they build turtle tunnels.
Right.
They don't care about how
They
they spend their
don't care
money.
about your money.
Also, the Senate and the House one are blatantly political processes. Like, at least Mueller's doing an investigation, a real one. And the rest of it is just nonsense.
Yeah. Joe says, where are we at as far as a convention of states is concerned?
It's still progressing, not as fast enough.
Yeah.
I would have to get the exact state total. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah,
but-
last I heard was last fall, Jim DeMint took over, right? He was heading it up after leaving Heritage.
That's right.
But I don't know where we're at states. And they had to reset it. This is a new convention of states process as well.
Oh, really?
I think they reset somehow too. But it's progressing. We should get an update on it, actually.
Yeah, we should. Okay, Ricardo wants to know, what is everyone's favorite kind of pizza? Jason.
Canadian bacon, man.
Yes.
Canadian bacon.
Yeah. I don't know,
Canadian bacon.
You like
I was a
nacho
kid. I
fries.
don't know.
Just say, just say ham, okay?
I mean, to me, I feel like every time I go to a pizza place, I have to get a regular slice of cheese to judge it versus other pizza places.
Thank you.
But I'll
We're not going to get through this.
I'll delve into the white pizza with ricotta on it sometimes. Oh, that's good.
Through this.
I'm with Jason. It's Canadian bacon all the way.
Canadian bacon, two
It's
people.
World Compliment Day, by the way, so get your compliments out there. We'll see you guys on Monday. Compliments, anyone?
Jason, you're very smart for liking that dumb thing on the
Yes.
You look better than yesterday.
Thanks, Don.